Live NFL trivia every Tuesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge and have a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation.
There have been some absolutely questionable coaching decisions made in the history of the New York Jets. When you've been around for over 60 years and have had little success, there are going to be a few coaching calls that you've made that make absolutely no sense whatsoever, and wind up costing your team the game. You have this absolutely terrible fourth down call against the San Francisco 49ers in 1992. You have whatever the heck Greg Williams was thinking on this Hail Mary attempt. There's tons of others that I could include, and I would be here all week if I did. But of all the bad ones, and there have been lots of them, there's one that stands out from the rest. It's a call so controversial that it cost his team the game. It's a call so controversial that it may have wound up costing a coach his job. And it's a call so controversial that even the team president and the announcers were criticizing it. You have to understand that back then, it was extremely rare for announcers to criticize a call. In a 1975 game against the Buffalo Bills, Jets head coach Charley Winner made a decision that may have cost him his entire career. And this is the story behind that decision. Before I break down the call itself, we need some context as to just who Charley Winner is, how the Jets were doing entering this game, and what was happening in the game, since obviously, one questionable call isn't going to single-handedly cost you your job. After a disappointing 1973 season, head coach Weeb Ewbank, best known for being the man in charge when the Jets won Super Bowl III, retired and left his post. The move was not shocking by any means. Ewbank said months before the season started that 1973 would be his last year in charge, and the man to replace him was Charley Winner, who would serve as the assistant and then take over as the head coach in 1974. Even though Winner was Ewbank's son-in-law, team president Phil Iseland was confident that he would perform, and that it had nothing to do with familial ties. As he said, his name is the name of the game, Winner. To be fair, Winner seemed to be qualified for the job. He was the head coach of the St. Louis Cardinals for 5 years, and guided the Cards to a winning record in 3 of them, while Winner was fired after the 1970 season despite an 8-5-1 record, presumably because the team started 8-2-1 and then dropped their final 3 games to miss the postseason in a somewhat forgotten collapse. Winner had NFL experience and seemed to know what he was doing, especially since he survived what can only be described as a giant mess in St. Louis from an off-the-field perspective. How would the Jets perform in 1974 in Winner's first season in charge? Well, it was a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, the team started off 1-7. The Jets were absolutely abysmal. They were tied with the Baltimore Colts for the worst record in football through 8 weeks. The one win the Colts had, that came against the Jets. It wasn't looking pretty. On the other hand, they shocked just about everyone by ending the season on a 6-game winning streak. They finished at 500, and while they didn't make the playoffs, expectations were somewhat optimistic heading into the 1975 campaign, following an unbelievable finish. However, even despite the strong end to the season, Winner's seat was still a bit lukewarm. Ewbank was the one who hired Winner to succeed him, but Ewbank, who was the general manager of the team in 1974, was no longer there in 1975, and was replaced by Al Ward. If Winner was going to keep his job as head coach of the Jets, then he was going to need to find another strong season in him. As you can probably expect, that did not happen. The 1974 season gave fans some hope. How can you not have hope after winning your final 6 games, with one of those wins coming against the 2-time defending Super Bowl champion Miami Dolphins? And Winner was feeling optimistic about his team's chances as well. While he conceded that the team was not as strong as the likes of Pittsburgh, Oakland, and Minnesota, that they were getting there, and were approaching that level. And when the Jets went 4-1 in the preseason, back when preseason games actually had some relevance, there were some who were ready to start believing that this could be a special team with possible Super Bowl aspirations. But when the regular season started, it was a completely different ballgame. Even though things started off well for the Jets as they were 2-1 through the first 3 games, with one of those wins being a 36-7 demolition against the division rival New England Patriots, after that, things went into a tailspin. Winner said that the team finally started to knit on defense, but that had to be the poorest knitting by anyone in the history of the planet, because the team crumbled. A 29-21 loss to the Minnesota Vikings where the Jets blew a 4th quarter lead. An ugly 43-0 loss to the Miami Dolphins, where the Dolphins outgained the Jets 437-176 in total yardage, where the Dolphins had 261 rushing yards on over 5 yards per carry, and when the Jets turned it over 8 times. That game was so bad that Joe Namath finished 8 for 24 with no touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a not-so-nice passer rating of 6.9, which is worse than if you did nothing but spike the ball to the ground on every single play. And then to make matters worse, when backup quarterback J.J. Jones entered, he went 0 for 9, but he didn't throw a pick, so he got that coveted 39.6 passer rating. How would the Jets follow up that embarrassing display? They followed that up with a 45-28 loss to the Baltimore Colts. At this point, the Jets were 2-4, and had dropped 4 straight games. It was looking like a repeat of the first half of 1974, where they were slow out of the gates. However, whereas in 1974 the Jets were losing games close, so you had to believe that they could turn things around and win a few here and there, that belief was nowhere to be found in 1975, after back-to-back blowout losses where the defense was practically non-existent. Any hopes they had at making the postseason were gone. They were 3 games back in the final spot with just 8 to play. And just like that, Winner's seat was hot. 2 straight seasons of poor starts and awful defensive play, especially since Winner came from a defensive background, were unacceptable. But in Week 8, the Jets hosted the Buffalo Bills in an AFC East matchup. And Winner did something during this game so controversial that it was not only about to put his seat on fire, but was about to make him the most hated man in the city. November 2nd, 1975. It's the Jets against the Bills in a rematch of the season opener where the Jets got curb stomped 42-14. The Jets had lost 4 of their last 5 against Buffalo, and I'm not sure anyone gave them much of a chance to break that skid here, especially since Buffalo was entering this game with a 4-2 record and the second best offense in football, led by arguably the best running back in the game in O.J. Simpson. The Jets had already dug themselves into a pretty big hole, but I suppose if they ran the table like they did in 1974 over the second half of the season and finished with a 10-4 record, that the playoffs were a possibility. A loss here, though, completely ends their season. There is no coming back from that. Now, the game doesn't start off well for the Jets, as Joe Ferguson finds Jim Braxton on an 11-yard touchdown pass to put the Bills on the scoreboard first, as he leaded 7-0. But after that, the Jets seemed to be the dominant team, and were somewhat surprisingly having their way with Buffalo. They drove 3 times and got 3 straight field goals out of it by Pat Leahy, which put them up 9-7 midway through the second quarter. Then the Jets would lead by 2 possessions at the half following a 16-yard touchdown pass by Joe Namath to Emerson Boozer. With a 16-7 lead at halftime, the fans at Shea Stadium were loving what they were seeing. Maybe they could salvage their season after all, and maybe they could go on a run like they did in 1974. And that belief only intensified when Namath threw his second touchdown pass of the day, with this one being a 31-yarder to Eddie Bell to make it a 23-7 game. Remember that back in 1974, there was no 2-point conversion, so this 16-point game was a 3-possession game. Buffalo would score 10 unanswered to close off the third quarter, scoring on a field goal and then a 28-yard touchdown pass from Ferguson to J.D. Hill, but the Jets were still leading at 23-17 entering the fourth quarter, and were still in a pretty good spot to close things out. Midway through the fourth, the Jets were still leading it by that score, and were driving to try and put the game away. After Joe Namath hit Rich Castor on an out route to give the team a first down, New York was firmly in field goal range, especially since Leahy was 3 for 3 on the day and seemed to have all the momentum in the world on his side. First down following the play, and Carl Garrett picks up a couple. Second down, and Garrett gets it again, and picks up a couple more. By this point, the Jets have a 3rd-and-1 situation on their hands. They hand it to John Riggins, who had over 100 rushing yards on the day and would eventually make the Pro Bowl that season. And Riggins gets stuffed. It's 4th down and the Jets are up by 6. It would be around a 36-yard field goal for Leahy to make it a 2-possession game and seal the deal with 5 minutes left. But that's not what Charley Winner decides to do. He decides to go for it. And the end result? Considering everything that happened after the fact, it might just be the most controversial coaching decision in the over 60-year history of the New York Jets. Roll the tape.
Riggins, did he get it?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Buffalo says they didn't. The officials are stepping in, and they're the people that count. No, sir.
The fans were booing. Even the announcers were criticizing the move, saying that there's no 10-point play in football, and that with the way Leahy was playing, you have to take the field goal there and clinch the win. But I'm sure this won't come back to bite the Jets in any way whatsoever. I'm sure this decision will have no bearing on the game at all, and that the Jets will still hold on and win this. Are you kidding me? Yep. O.J. Simpson scored from 64 yards out after the Jets forgot how to tackle, and just like that, the Jets lost this game 24-23. A field goal locks it up and essentially clinches it. Instead, they go for it, and it backfired in absolutely spectacular fashion. And after the game, all the talk was about this controversial decision by Charley Winner that ultimately cost his team the game. Bills head coach Lou Saban said that he was thrilled when Winner went for it, because a field goal would have put him out of business. Always a good sign when the opposing coach is saying how thrilled he is that you did something. Winner defended the decision in a bizarre way. On one hand, he said that the players thought they could make it, that it was less than a yard, and that the Jets were running the ball well on Buffalo all day long. These are all valid points, especially since the Jets finished that game with 199 rushing yards and over 4.8 yards per carry. On the other hand, he said some other really weird things. He said that taking the field goal was the easy way out, whatever the heck that means. He criticized the fans who criticized the decision, saying, "I wonder how many people at Shea Stadium make decisions in their jobs every day that don't turn out right, but nobody knows about them." And then he essentially admitted that he had no faith in his kicker who was 3 for 3 on the day, saying a 36-yard field goal isn't a sure thing. All you have to think about is the Dallas game Sunday night when Tony Frisch missed a 38-yard field goal try with 9 seconds left. Why are you comparing Leahy to another kicker? Why are you letting that influence your decision? That's like Andy Reid being scared to let Patrick Mahomes throw the ball in the red zone because he saw Mitch Trubisky throw a pick in the red zone. That was rather bizarre. Now, Winner's job was safe for now, but it was hanging on thin ice, especially after President Phil Iceland seemed annoyed at the decision, saying, "I hope we don't have to make a change for next year," and said that he would have gone for the field goal. How bad was that decision in the long run? Well, 2 weeks later, Winner was fired. As you can probably guess, things did not improve for the Jets after this game, as they continued to slide. This was the team's best chance at winning in quite some time, and they completely choked it away to drop their 4th straight. That loss was followed up with a 27-7 loss against the Miami Dolphins, where Miami scored 27 unanswered in the final 3 quarters, and where Bob Greasy finished with a passer rating of 143.7, showing once again just how awful New York's defense was. And the straw that really broke the camel's back once and for all came the following week against the Baltimore Colts, when the Jets lost 52-19, in a game so bad that they allowed over 500 yards of offense, and the game was more memorable for what happened off the field, as defensive tackle Ed Gallagher punched teammate Steve Reese on the sidelines. By this point, Winner had completely lost the team and was fired. Iceland minced no words whatsoever about the decision to replace him with interim head coach Ken Shipp, saying he's got to take responsibility. He's the head coach. To save Charlie and to save the team, we had to fire him now. Winner was furious about the firing, and while the embarrassing display against the Colts was what finally did him in, it was the decision he made 2 weeks before against the Bills that got the ball rolling in a really bad direction. It's tough to find a coaching decision in Jets history more controversial than this one, considering the circumstances. To pass up on a field goal when it wins you the game because you saw a kicker on another team miss a kick from a similar distance, then to lose the game, and then to implode in the post-game press conference to the point where even the team president is in disagreement with you? If you don't like that dysfunction, then you don't like Jets football. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot, and be sure to check out Twitch every Monday and Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaguarGator9 and subscribe to 60-Second NFL History on YouTube. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping with the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. So you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.